Right. 1 September 2025. And today I'm excited to be giving you yet another episode of the $1,500 tax-free for civil servants episode. So as you are aware, one of our biggest manifesto promises is $1,500 tax-free for all civil servants. That is the promise that was given on 31 March when people went out to protest. And we are clear about what needs to be done. What needs to be done is very, very clear. And that is to improve the economy and also to make the life of our people better. So one of the worst things that have ever happened to Zimbabwe is that people have lost 45 years. So 45 years have been lost to mismanagement by ZANU-PF. People have lost salaries. The currency has crashed multiple times and there's no plan. So under the current government, they've got no plan on what needs to be done. And we've presented to you our manifesto, which is clear, which we discussed here last night with all the other MPs and which we're going to continue to discuss. So this is our manifesto, $1,500 tax-free for all civil servants, 160 new towns, high-speed rail, only 8 ministries, military planned city, homecoming, and a tourism-based economy. So this is our manifesto, and we're going to deliver on it. And there's so much excitement across the whole country on the promises. However, today, I want to quickly touch on the arrival of Mnangagwa in China. So Mnangagwa has arrived in China this morning, about 10 hours ago. And Mnangagwa was welcomed by the Chinese. He's traveling with a big delegation. And he was driven around by the Chinese, who have taken him to various places. And tomorrow he's going to be meeting the president of China. And that is an important meeting. However, as I said in the morning, we've got all the dictators in the world. And I'm not saying these words lightly. The people you are seeing on this screen, they are presiding over some of the worst dictatorships that you've ever seen. And these are not the people that you can say a new democratic country is going to be associated with. You've seen that most of the African presidents have not gone here. So far, only Mnangagwa has been confirmed as an African president who's going to meet, or who's going to be president at the victory celebrations of China. And I believe that this event is a non-event. Otherwise, more leaders were going to be here. But let's unpack policy to deliver on the manifesto that we've put out here. There are certain realities that we need to consider, particularly funding. How are we going to fund a 200 billion gap? Currently, the Zimbabwe government is working with only $5 billion. So that is, if you put together all the money that the Zimbabwe government is working with, the money that remains in the country is about 5 billion. Most of it is coming from remittances. No one is borrowing money to the Zimbabwe government, and there is no foreign direct investment taking place, no meaningful foreign direct investment, because people are afraid of losing their money. So one of the things that we need to do when we start a new government is to allow people to bring in their money. And to do that, you first of all have to get away from the policy uncertainties surrounding currency. So we're going to use the rand. So the rand is what we're going to use. And the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe is not going to be able to print money because they'll be governed by the common monetary area. So remember very carefully and clearly what I'm saying here. Zimbabwe is going to enter the common monetary area, and there are rules concerning money. How money is printed, interest rate policy, and all those kind of things. They're managed centrally. And this is going to be in connection or together with the South African Reserve Bank. The South African Reserve Bank is a private company. It's not owned by the South African government. And therefore, it's not under the control of the South African government. So you clearly understand that what we're going to do is to go into the common monetary area and take away the printing. There is massive printing taking place right now under Mnangagwa. So that will make sure that people feel free to take in the money. Secondly, we're not going to charge income tax. So income tax currently, as it stands, is very little. And if I calculate properly, the ZIMRA is collecting in total about 5 billion. And out of that 5 billion, the income tax that is being collected is less than 1.5 billion. There are very few people who go to work. So we're going to totally scrap income tax. We're also going to raise the salaries of civil servants to $1,500 as promised during all the speeches by Comrade Nyoka Mabunu. Remember when we were having the speeches, Comrade Nyoka Mabunu has said that the salary, minimum salary of all civil servants will be $1,500. Also, Mdarageza has said it. So this is the promise of M31. We're going to have the minimum salary of 1,500 and there's no tax. Why do we not have tax? Because we're going to be having a tourism-based economy. So we want to attract into the North Corridor and South Corridor billions and billions of investors from Victoria Falls to Bulawayo, from Bulawayo to Bedbridge, from Bedbridge to Mtare. That is the South Corridor. And then on the north, from Victoria Falls to Chirundu, from Chirundu to Harare, from Harare to Bedbridge to Mtare, from Mtare to Beira. So connect Zimbabwe to the coast. And when you're in Harare, you'll be able to jump into high-speed rail and be in Beira within less than 3 hours. So at 6 o'clock, you go into the train. By 9, you are at Beira, and we're going to develop many assets there at Beira from our own perspective as Zimbabwe. We're going to have hotels, we're going to have many investments at Beira. There is a 20-kilometer corridor at Maputo, but I understand there's also a 20-kilometer corridor at Beira, which is ready for development so that Zimbabwe can have assets at the cost. The cost of Mozambique is more than 1,500 kilometers, and it's not developed. So we're going to work together with the Mozambicans, the guys in Malawi, and all that side to make sure that Zimbabwe has access to the coast through high-speed rail. So you'll be able to jump from Victoria Falls, go all the way through the South Corridor to the coast at Beira. And in that corridor, we're going to have many, many hotels, over 1,000 hotels, many, many cities, 160 cities. So people should not be living in the rural areas. One person living here, the next person living the next 2 kilometers, and so forth. You can't put services that way. So money is going to flow into these investments. No tax. If you come into the country, we don't tax you. You can build your hotel. You're not going to get charged corporate tax. You're able to take out your profits and no import duties on all materials. So if you are bringing in your capital goods, if you are bringing in your stuff for sale in the corridors, there is no tax. So you're not taxed. It's a free zone where you can trade as you like. Why do you want to do that? We want Zimbabwe to be the shopping center of Africa. We want people to fly in with everything that you can think of. And then people to come from South Africa, from Zambia, from Malawi, from Botswana, and shop in our country. So we want people to shop in our corridors on the south and in our corridors on the north. That means our high-speed rail will be utilized heavily with people going to the beaches at Beira, people going to Victoria Falls. Our airports will be connected. So our high-speed rail will connect to each airport. So that is the airport at Bulawayo, Victoria Falls, the airport at Kariba. There's going to be other new airports across the country so that you can jump out of the train into the plane and we have massive road networks. And our game parks, which are heavily underutilized. If you look at our game parks around Kariba, there are 4. At Wange, no one goes there. At Matopo, no one goes there. We're going to make sure that these are functional. So our tourism-based economy is going to function. And now look at the military planned city. The military planned city, I've had a number of discussions with guys in the army, in security, and we're obviously going to tweak what we're going to do there. But we don't want our guys in the security services, prison services, police to be like what they are now, where your wife is renting or living in the raw areas, or you don't have a place to stay, you're renting a back room, or you depend on the little house in the barrack. When you quit and when you leave, you have nothing, you have to go to South Africa and wash cars. The guy who washes my car here in Cape Town is a former member of the Zimbabwe National Army. Did you guys know that? He comes to me and says, Mkoma, I'm washing this car. I ran away from the army. I cannot do it. And now I wash your car. I pay him 50 rands after I wash my car. We don't want that. We want our guys in the army to have dignity. And also we want our guys in the security services, intelligence, to be in one place. We're going to have services. And one of the things that we want to do is self-driving. So you know that there is a new trend of self-driving cars, especially if you go to America, there is a new trend of self-driving cars. So in the army, you don't really need a car every day. You need to go from one place to another. And that is one of the things we're going to do with innovation, self-driving cars, and also with the drones. And that requires you to have an engineering corps. You don't want to buy tanks when you're not going to fight anyone on the battlefield. Who do you think you're going to fight on the battlefield in Zimbabwe? So what are other people using? For example, in other countries, they're patrolling with the cyber trucks, they're patrolling with the drones. At the moment, Zimbabwe is wasting money buying tanks, which they only drive around when they want to scare each other, which is crazy. So I think it's clear. We have a clear plan. There's no one with a clearer plan. And I want to go back to love. So this is the love manifesto. We want to give people back their lost time. People have lost so much. So when you build our 160 new towns, it's going to be under a build, operate, and transfer model. And this, everyone, all of our MPs, you see this diagram we've got there? We've asked each and every MP to draw a picture like that and put their picture at the center there so that they can take it to their villages. So let me give you an example. I want to go to Gutu Mpandawa, and I know that many of you guys come from Gutu. If right now I say go to Gutu, there's a little shop which sells sugar, salt, tomatoes, beef, toothpaste, tissue paper, and so forth. We want to replace that with a town. So a town that is going to be having a mall, a rail, and also have facilities like gyms, housing. So we're going to attach to each town at least between 500 and 1,000 houses. And we're going to move people from their raw areas and give them access to a house, a 3-bedroom house. And you're going to say, Gambakwe, is that possible? It's been done before. I've shown you before. When Mugabe took over in 1980, he built villages. And the number of villages built by Mugabe were worth approximately 65 million pounds. This was funded by the British, and it's possible. The way we're going to do it is we're going to build going up. So we're going to have malls, and behind the malls, we're going to have gated communities with housing, and people from the raw areas are very sparsely populated. They are living in what is called lines, Malayan. They were put there by the colonialists so that they can be managed, so that when they're driving, they can drive from one place to another. So every raw area in Zimbabwe is next to each other in a line. The reason why they did that was so that they can manage the communities. If they want to check how many cattle we've got, if they want to check how many children we've got, if a trouble causer, they don't have to go all over the place. So they settle people in lines. The schools are far. And the kind of education that is being provided right now is not adequate. It's not proper. It's not relevant to the current infrastructure in the current AI world. So the new towns are going to build is going to have a new type of school. So we're designing a new type of school, not the kind of school that you know now. So so that a person and a young person in Harare will have the same education as the person in the rural area. They'll be able to code, they'll be able to use AI, they'll be able to go online, they'll be able to interact, and they'll be having Wi-Fi, high-speed Wi-Fi in the villages. So you won't have the village that you know now. The villages are going to become farmland. So you're going to have farmland where the local community has ownership. So they will own plots and it will be properly irrigated, not through what Mnangagwa was doing, which is Pumvudza. So understand from an infrastructure point of view what we want to do, and from a love perspective. When you come from the diaspora, you're going to choose which of the 160 towns you want to live in. And currently there's what is called master plans. So we have master plans for every city right now. And take, for example, my city or my town of Kariba. Kariba has got no town center. Marondera has got no town center. Victoria Falls has got no town center. You've got a shop here or a shop there. Wange has got no town center. So we're going to create a town center which can house at least 20 to 30,000 people. So our towns are going to be at least between 20 to 30,000 local residents. And then you're going to be having hotels, stadiums, gyms, teams, like all other sports that you can think of. It will be a proper city, a hospital, a clinic. So when you talk of 160 towns, you're already talking of 160 massive developments. Our country will never be the same again. So without this approach, you cannot develop. Because this is what Mnangagwa should have done. This is what Mugabe should have done in the past 45 years. They didn't do it. So we have to do it, one, in a rip and replace approach. Rip and replace, that is what we're going to do. Now, you're going to say, Gambakwe, what are you talking about? What is your topic says China in Zimbabwe. What are you talking about? So now let's unpack a very difficult topic. And that is the investments of China in Zimbabwe right now. Zimbabwe has been working with China since Mugabe started the Look East policy in 2008. So that is 2008 to date. That is exactly 17 years since China got into Zimbabwe. China's investments in Zimbabwe are very small. They've got very small investments, it's minor. They currently don't have an investment in Zimbabwe. We can take their investment, the actual investment right now, in terms of a balance sheet, being the projects at Wange and their own mining projects. So it's not much. I can put the Chinese investment in Zimbabwe currently at close to 25 to 50 billion dollars. That is cheap change. It's nothing. Companies in South Africa here, their revenue for a year is 5 billion, 10 billion, and they are not in the top 100 of the stock exchange if you have that type of revenue. I'm not talking about the balance sheet. Most companies here have got big balance sheets. So the problem with the Chinese investment at the moment is that it's extractive. You saw Mdara Chiwenga talking about extraction. The problem is they extract raw materials and they go. They also take the soil. They're not just taking the mineral. They just extract and go. And they are not interested in putting back infrastructure into Zimbabwe. So the reason why they went into Wange is because Wange is an opportunity for them to fund their mines. So they can take power from Wange and fund their mines. They've got no long-term interest in Zimbabwe. So we want a different kind of Chinese investment. And Zimbabwe is different. There's no country like Zimbabwe in the whole world. Let me explain to you why. Zimbabwe is very small. So it's tiny. And if you are at Gweru, you are 2 hours away from any place in Zimbabwe. So it is a tourism gem. Zimbabwe is a tourism gem because it's got multiple tourism facilities, game parks, wonders of the world, close to the beach at Beira. And these are massive investments, opportunities, and tourism opportunities. So what we need to do is to change the model used by China to invest in Zimbabwe. And today I'm only talking about China. I've talked a lot about the Americans and what the Americans can do. So let's talk about the model that we need the Chinese to use in Zimbabwe. So firstly, you need the Chinese to be involved in the high-speed rail. So at the moment, the Chinese have not been interested in high-speed rail because firstly, it's not viable. It's not viable for them to go into rail right now because there's no way to go. So we're going to need to move the Chinese and look at their investment in the rail. So that is national rail in the corridors, North Corridor and South Corridor, and then in the metros. You know that Zimbabwe is currently poorly connected. So our rail is currently passing through. It's not going to the place. So if you're going to Bubi, Ngai, you go to Cholocho, you go to Wange, the rail is like this. I'm going to Victoria Falls. It bypasses everything. So the kind of rail we need to build is connected to the cities. So the new cities we're going to build must be connected to the rail. So the rail is not just passing through, it's going to that place. So you should have a rail that goes to West Nicholson, a rail that goes to Wange, a rail that goes to Cholocho, a rail that goes to Ngai. Why? Because that is where your gold is. I've shown you the gold map of all these areas. So when I go to Ngai, I must not find a little village. I must find a city where I can live for 3 or 4 days, and hotels where I can live, and where I can then live from there and go to other places around with good roads. And that is where we want to go. So our infrastructure is based on rail. But then how can you sustain a town with nothing happening there? It's not true that nothing's happening there. A lot is happening. But the resources are being taken from those areas. So if you go to, I've always told you guys about Bubi, that has got the most gold. Or Cholocho has got the most gold. So what happens is they take the gold from there, and then the community has nothing left. So that is where devolution comes in. And that is where VAT comes in. When you produce gold in a place, you're producing a resource. So we're going to need you to pay VAT, and then a portion of that VAT is going to go back to that community. Central government must be small. That's why we have 8 ministries. So in each province, we're going to have a minister of state who is going to be like a president of that province. So not the powerless one you've got now. We're going to have a powerful minister of state or minister of the province, or what they call a premier here in South Africa. You're going to have that person having a budget, and they're going to manage the collection of VAT. So collection of VAT is going to be under devolution. There will be devolution of collection and use. So once they collect, they say we have collected so much revenue in this region. Your rail can then come, your town can then function, and because of built houses for people in those areas, you'll be able to then collect rates and taxes for property. So when I talk about no income tax, you got a house from the government, you're going to pay water or water fees. You're going to pay electricity fees. You're going to pay your rates. That money is local. It's going to develop your local communities. We don't want your tax to go to Harare and then come back. You must collect your tax locally, and then the portion that goes to the government goes, and the portion that remains. And then you collect more money from shopping. That is why we're not charging import duty. So we don't want import duty. We want goods to flow into the country, and then we charge VAT. So we don't want to charge at the border. We don't want our people smuggling and running through the border. Even if you bring your car, bring it. We're not going to charge you anything. We didn't make it. You bought it the money, which we did not give you. Bring your car, and then we want people to shop from all over the world to come into Zimbabwe and shop. So the amount of goods in our country must be such that VAT makes sense. So I hope that you understand from a revenue perspective where we are. Our corridors are the places where you have a huge amount of goods. You can travel, you can live in the hotels, and we're connecting to the key points. That is Beira, Bedbridge, Bulawayo, Victoria Falls, Churundu, Harare, Mutare, and then all the way down to Beira at the beach. We want people to be able to go over there, and we're going to build massive number of hotels there so that you can go in, you spend a day, you spend 2 days, you come back, and it mustn't be expensive. And our civil servants will be able to move around. One of the things that we're going to do, we're not going to deploy people away from their homes. So this includes the guys in the army, in police, in intelligence are going to be deployed in the area. We're not going to have that crazy situation where a teacher is deployed in Masvingo when she comes from Bulawayo and she leaves her husband over there. We're going to sort that out because we're going to use devolution. So devolution sorts out these problems. Central government's job is not to manage local things. Central government's job is to manage those things that are national. That is policy. That's why we talked about Ministry of Tourism Infrastructure, Ministry of Home Affairs, Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Education. So I can name the few ministries that we're going to have, but we're not going to have more than 8 ministries. And that is clear because we don't want to waste money. And it reduces corruption because the local communities, through the chiefs, are going to have a say. So the chief is going to play a part, or the chief's council in each province is going to play a part in managing the cities. Because if you are in Bikita, you are going to have Nika town, you are going to have a town at Kuku, you are going to have a town at Nika, you are going to have a town at Bagete, at Beshinaf, at Nyanyazi, at Hot Spring. You are going to have towns everywhere there. Why don't you have a town at Bedbridge? Why do people live in a mountain over there and another one in a mountain over there? If you're at Cholocho, you're going to have a town there. You're going to have services, schools that are near people. You're going to have a mall that is near people, a movie house, the kind of things that I'm talking about that you should have because you're living in that community. You don't want that crazy situation where people live everywhere. It makes no sense. So the chiefs are going to have a role, and the people that are going to be running the towns, the CEOs, are going to have a role. And of course, you've got the councils that we currently have, about 32 councils that are run by the opposition right now, and they're failing to run them. That is because councils make no sense. What does the council do right now? Zinwa provides water. ZESA provides electricity. Zinara provides roads. So what is the council doing now? It's doing nothing. The council's job is to sit in a council meeting and try to sell each other stand. We don't want a stand. The thing called a stand, you will never hear it in South Africa. What is a stand? Have you ever heard someone in South Africa saying, I've got a stand, or my salary as an MP is a stand? So those things won't happen. You're going to remove that because everyone's going to have a house and you'll be able to rent out your house. It's yours. We're going to give it to you. All right. What clarity is that? Very clear. No doubt about what we're saying. And it's all here and simple. So let's go back to the Chinese. Now that we know what we want to do, what portion of the economy is mining? This tiny. So the mining is going to become a little portion of the economy. The biggest portion of our economy is going to be tourism. Or we estimate that 75% of all activities in the economy will be tourism. So we want tourism to be 75% of the economy. We want our government to focus on its core business, but our biggest job will be to protect tourists, to provide services, and to make our people tourists. We don't want our people sitting in one place. Also don't want our people vending on the streets. We want one of the cleanest countries ever. That is why the corridors are going to be no vending zones. You are going to have space to open a shop. When you go to your village at Gutu Mpandawana, you are going to have your vegetable shop. You are going to have your beer shop. You are going to have your supermarket. You are going to have your shoe shop. You are going to have your dress shop, mechanic, all those things. We're going to do them. Right now, if you go to Mpanda, when someone is fixing a car there, someone is fixing there, you're looking for spare parts, it's not available. We're going to sort all that out. And because it's tax-free, you'll be able to come to South Africa, you go to Dubai, you buy your things, and everything is available. And our people in Africa will know that if you fly to Zimbabwe, you can get the thing that you want to buy, and it's tax-free. At which point we charge you tax? At point of sale, VAT, that is the only tax we're going to charge. And then tax in terms of tourism activities, as you pay VAT, and also certain activities. For example, the towns, the government is going to own a portion of the new towns together with the people that develop the towns. So 160 towns, can you build them by yourself? No, you can't. So what do you need? You need other countries to come in and build. So some of those towns are going to be built by the Chinese. Some of them are going to be built by the Americans. Some of them are going to be built by other countries. So 160 towns, everyone has got enough space to build, and they'll be able to collect rent, they'll be able to collect levies and rents, they'll be able to run facilities inside those towns, massive number of towns. So it's going to be an open economy. We're not going to allow a closed economy. Right, how many minutes have we gone? 30 minutes of describing our new country, a beautiful country, and a loving country, because you're going to get whatever you need, whatever you don't have right now, you're going to get it. And I can assure you, you are not going to want to live in the UK where you pay half of your salary is rent and half of your salary is tax. You're going to want to come home because you won't be charging your tax, because you'll be having your farm. You'll be able to have a farm with irrigation, but not a farm where you farm yourself. We're going to have farmland, and then we're going to have living land. We're going to have the most advanced technology. And some of the self-driving technology is going to come from China. And that is why I'm saying the relationship with China must move from raw materials and must move towards developing infrastructure, especially tourism infrastructure. Then you won't have the conflict with the Chinese, where currently the only thing that the Chinese people are doing in Zimbabwe is to dig up mines, take materials and go. They're still at Manise. Not even one bar of that steel is going to leave the country, because you'll be using it to build rail. You'll be using it to build buildings. South Africa's steel industry is collapsing. I've shown you this morning that they're closing one of their biggest steel manufacturing countries. So there is a place for the Chinese investors, but it is not through what they're doing now. What they're doing now is a little portion like this, in mining, in retail, in electronics, but they are not doing the big things. So we want them to do the big things. But who's going to have the biggest chunk of the system? That is the Americans. The Americans do well in banking. They do well in travel. So if you look at America, they've got some of the biggest companies in car manufacturing, in technology, in weapons manufacturing. So those are the kind of things that you're talking about, because if you're wealthy, you're going to attract attacks. You're going to need to defend the country well. So the army needs to be different. It needs to have a different approach, especially if you're going to have to go all the way to the coast. You're going to have an army that functions. You're going to need drones. You're going to need a different approach. And I haven't even talked about energy. Everything we've talked about here needs a large amount of energy, which currently we actually don't have. You need to build power plants. You need to develop water plants. You need to put in place ways of moving water across the country. Right now, how many people have got a flushing toilet in the village? So if you're building 160 towns, how many flushing toilets do you want? That is a developed country, not what you currently have, which is terrible. All right, I think I've covered everything. The Chinese model of investment must move from mining, from retail, and from just buying and selling to more of infrastructure and technology and development and building of cities. So the 160 cities, there will be enough for everyone in the world to come and build and run those cities. So we need systems in place. And some of the biggest rail infrastructure that I'm talking about. You are talking here of new airports, upgrading the current airports, building a self-driving corridor so that when someone is in the military, they don't have to be driving around with hundreds of cars. You want a way of having a... So let's say your soldier is standing at Binga. They want to go to Victoria Falls. And another soldier is standing in between. You want a way of using self-driving, which is currently used in America for carrying people. They're Uber, some of them, I think Waymo, don't have a person actually driving it. You want technology that will allow that to happen, that a person, without having many more cars, the car can go to the place and pick up the person. This is happening already with the new technology and AI. And I haven't even touched on AI, the capabilities of AI right now, and what we can do, constructing a new country with the thinking of how a new country should look like, not what it currently looks like. So when we talk of AI, how our teachers going to teach, how our university is going to teach, how our hospital is going to look, and how do you reduce costs? How do you use tourism? People are sitting around more. How do you make those people sit around more and do other things? How are we going to farm better? So all these things that I'm talking about, it needs a new way of thinking, and it's all encapsulated here. And we need all our people in the diaspora to come back home and implement all this. Right, and the Chinese have got a role to play. They are not to be thrown away. You don't have to fight them, and they won't be polluting your water and just taking your stuff and going away. They must come with a new approach into our country, not the approach that they're using right now. So I hope that Mnangagwa in his meeting, tomorrow Mnangagwa is meeting the president of China. He's also meeting the companies, the biggest companies in China. China already has most of the things that I'm talking about here, but they don't bring them to other countries because you don't make that demand. So that demand must be met. You cannot just let the Chinese go and dig inside of Hwange National Park and say, dig here, give me my 1 million. Or you say, go and dig in that village, chase everyone in that village, give me my 500,000. That is going to be gone. That won't be allowed. And we're going to have a very strong government, which is locally based. So we're going to have devolution. As I said, devolution, a big, big part of what we want to do. All right, guys, I think I've covered everything. This is not a fluke. This is not a joke. If you don't get this, you're going to get more of the same. You're going to get Pamberi na Mnangagwa. You're going to get Idife. You're going to get 2030 Mnangagwa, and you have nothing in your pocket. If you look at our manifesto, you're going to get cash in your pocket. You're going to have a modern developed country. Zimbabwe is going to be a place where people come and you are going to love yourself and you're going to love your family. You're going to leave that country where you live and you're going to come home. And no one will be beaten. For an election campaign, there'll be so much for everybody. No one will be chased. And we are going to have a country which has got plenty. And the local people, you are going to start making demands on your own country and your resources. That's what we want you to do. It's clear. Now let's go to the comments. AI with ethics, yes, Mkoma Otto. Results of taking Ve, yes, Mkoma James. Don't take him Ve. And uchatongwa, uchagara, uri loja. Wakadakwa, yes, Mkoma Gary. Ndakadakwa, ni love. And if the Chinese investments are tiny, who exactly are you comparing with who? Okay, let me unpack the Chinese investments. They are between 20 billion and 50 billion in Zimbabwe. They are nothing. Zimbabwe, to get back to zero, we're looking at 100 billion. And then to develop the 160 towns and the infrastructure, another 100 billion. We need 200 billion in Zimbabwe, according to the estimation that we've done here. And the good thing about this, it's not political. It's not a one-day thing. This is a 3-year program. So by 2030, you must be seeing high-speed rail. You must be able to jump into a train at Seke. There will be a town at Seke. we're going to go to Chief Seke and say to him, Chief Seke, we're going to put a town here. And there will be houses. People won't be living in the bushes like they're doing now. And you'll be able to jump into town, into a train at Seke, pass through Chitungwiza, pass through all these towns, and be at Harare. Go to Hatfield, go to Goromonzi, go to all these areas. There will be people who design the rail, obviously. It's not me, but to be able to do that 24 hours a day. Our cities won't sleep anymore. And these things that I'm talking about won't happen if you don't plan them. So if you just sit there, you're going to sit like that without a plan. And Zimbabwe will continue to be dumb and will continue to fight with the new governments that come. The kind of approach we're talking about here, it takes away politics. There will be no more politics because the government is small. So there'll be President Gambakwe and 8 ministers, including Minister of Defense, there'll be no Minister of Sport. Why do you need Minister of Sport? Honestly, you have a whole Minister of Sport, Minister of Women, Minister of Tourism, Minister of Youth. What is that? Why do you need all that? That must be devolved. Devolution deals with all that. You don't need all that way of thinking of Politburo and all that. That is garbage. So those things are going to go away. We need a new way of thinking. Let's see if there's another rest of talking there. Yes, I think these are ZANU people who want to cheat you. As part of the South Corridor, we can also have a link between Victoria Falls through Mkoma. Fantastic. These are the kind of things that I'm talking about. The possibilities are limitless. You can have high-speed rail into Gauteng. And you will see that Zimbabwe was the capital of our region. Munumtapa Empire had a capital at Masvingo. How did they do it? That was where the king sat of this whole region. Guys, do you see what I'm telling you? Do you understand what I'm telling you? So we need to revive. But before we talk big, let's get it done. Let's get our coalition in place. Let's get our MPs in place. Let's stop loving mediocrity. So let's stop loving mediocrity. Let's have a love for delivery. So let's deliver. I would like to thank all of you guys, all of you who are here, including those people who don't understand. When we started here, many of you didn't understand. You're going to get it. And then when we give you your key into your house, you understand. We don't want our old people to have nothing to eat. We're going to deal with it. We're going to give them a grant. We're going to give them a pension. We're going to take them to hospital. Right now, if you get sick in Zimbabwe, you're dead. We don't want you to die, especially in a foreign country. All right. I would like to thank all of you for watching. I've overtalked. Remember, I'm supposed to come back here in the morning at 5. I don't sleep at all. The reason I don't sleep is because someone has to do this. We have to get it done for our future generations, for our past generations. Mnangagwa, when he came into office, we did not ask him to have a manifesto. That's why Mnangagwa was able to walk around and do nothing. You will see that going forward, we are not going to accept political parties that don't have a plan. We want a plan. How are we going to take our people out of all these countries where they've been chased into? How are we going to take people from poverty? How are we going to stop corruption and take our people and make them a success? That's what we want. Okay. Government said, Gambakwe, take us through the technocrat arm of the government. We don't want politics stupid that we have seen over. Yes, tomorrow we're going to take you through. And Mkoma James, thank you very much for coming here. I would like to thank you for coming. So guys, go to m31zimbabwe.com and join the party, become a candidate. Let's make this work. Don't wait for manna from heaven. There's no manna coming. Most of you Zimbabweans are smart. You got degrees, got doctorates. Don't sit there and say someone else is going to come and be an MP or a president. Come and become that person. So I'm challenging you to go to m31zimbabwe.com, look for the form, and become an MP, a senator, or a councillor, you are going to do very, very well. We've got a few councillors now. Because of the 160 towns, we are not going to have councillors only. We are going to have people that are not councillors that are going to run cities. Because in the corridors, these cities are not going to be normal cities. You're going to see what I'm talking about, and it's going to be amazing. I would like to thank all of you for watching. Please, may you go and check out all the other videos we've done today, and I'll see you again tomorrow. And don't forget, it can be done. So it can be done. It only needs you, a Zimbabwean, to have a pride in your own country. Stop rushing to other people's countries. We've got 2 years to go. And in these 2 years, we must make our countries work, our country work. And the people that come into our country must come on our terms. That includes the Chinese. We're not saying chase the Chinese. We're saying give them something else to do besides mining. Do you get it? I hope that you understand the policy of M31 Zimbabwe regarding the Chinese. I think I've totally explained my love for the Americans and what they can do. There is space for everybody in what we're developing. But people have got their own strengths and weaknesses. And we know what strengths each party has got. I would like to thank all of you for watching. And I'll see you again tomorrow in the morning, 5 a.m. And a good night to you all.